Hey, so in this video, I just want to show one of the key differences between Office Autopilot and Infusionsoft. Both are very popular and robust business automation, email automation tools. And they go about doing their automation in really, really different ways that I think appeal to different kinds of people. Which one you prefer is totally up to you. I'm going to try to give you just a straight facts look at how both of these would handle doing an email sequence. And what I wanted to do, what makes Office Autopilot and Infusionsoft, more powerful in my opinion than a lot of the other email tools out there, is that email drip sequences just won't go until they're done. I feel like it's more effective to send emails when people kind of click the link and ask for the next one, rather than just sort of auto-subscribe them until the end. And this is really important as email companies get more able to track deliverability and interaction. You really want to make sure that you're not sending emails to people who are tuning you out, basically. So let's take a look. First, in Office Autopilot. So the way that this all works is, let me show it to you on a actual live website. This is one of my clients, and this is a site I built. They're using Office Autopilot. And what happens is we want to offer you to go on a virtual trip. And so you're going to put in your name and your email, and then you're going to sign up here. This form here is an embedded Office Autopilot form. So these fields are actually Office Autopilot. The whole site itself is in WordPress. So you'll sign up, and that's going to start the tour. So let's take a look at the steps involved in sort of doing it in Office Autopilot, and then we'll see how we would do that in Infusionsoft. So first step is to create the form. So you jump first to the admin form page. You go manage smart forms. And you can see here I've got a virtual tour. This is my new sign up because I also wanted to put in a double opt-in. I'm not going to dive in deeply into the double opt-in stuff. But for now, know that you just create a form. And then over in the settings, you create the thank you page. And this is where in the manage form fills, you can add your tag. If someone fills out the form, you put a tag in there, and then you add them to what Office Autopilot calls a step sequence. Now, in order for this to work, of course, if you're going to add a sequence, just realize the sequence has to already be there. So when you're working in Office Autopilot, you're always kind of going in reverse. You would actually create the form last, even though it's the first thing that your site visitor would interact with. It's actually the last thing you build. You go backwards. So first, you would write the emails in the sequence. Up here in messages, you would write all your emails. Then once all of your emails are written, you go into the autopilot, and then you create your sequence. So here's a virtual tour sequence. And you would add your emails into this sequence. And so let's just say that the emails are already written. And let's start here. So what we've done is we have a welcome email just telling you what's going to happen. And that in 2 days' time, you go to your first virtual destination, which is Cuba. And what we've done is we've broken the email up into sort of two parts just to kind of make it, because there's a lot of content. The first part is we want you to click through to our website and look at these kind of amazing photo tours we've put together. And then once you're sort of back from the tour, we're going to then share with you a couple more things like a recipe and some other exciting stuff. But the other part is just to make sure that people are constantly interacting with our emails. We don't want to just send emails and not know if people are clicking. So that's the game. We want them to click the link, and when they click the link, then we want to send them the second email, the follow-up email, but not until they've clicked that link. So in Office Autopilot, you'll see that we get to this step, they get the email, and then the next step is to pause the sequence. And the sequence will not become unpaused until they click that link. So in order to unpause the sequence, we actually have to come back out of this to the Autopilot tab. And we do that in the active response rules. So when I say it's like kind of a different mindset, the mindset of Office Autopilot is like starting and stopping sequences, like all start and stop sequence things happen in this active response. And so you can kind of see all the things that start and stop your sequences kind of all in one place. So we've got our virtual visits here, And the way that that works is we'll say, okay, look, if somebody, and here's the role I created. Okay, so if here's the response name, Virtual Tour Cuba. When should this happen? Okay, well, if a contact clicks the virtual visit Cuba, then what's going to happen? We'll unpause that sequence, right? So again, you already have to have the sequence made. You already have to have the message done. And when you're done sort of making the sequence and the auto response rules, that's when you make the form, and then you install the form onto your website. So that's kind of a rather quick overview of how it's done in Office Autopilot. You create your messages, then you add those messages to your sequence, and then you sort of put a stop in between each message to wait for the link click, and you start and stop the sequence, or you restart the sequence from the active response rules, right? So one more time, you create your messages, you go to the autopilot, you create your sequence, add the messages to the sequence, and then put pauses in between each message, and then you reactivate the sequence on the click using your active response rules. That's how it's done. And then when you're done with your sequence, you simply create your web form, and then you say, look, when people sign up to this web form, you're going to start that sequence. All right, let's take a look at how Infusionsoft does it. Infusionsoft is completely different in its approach, in that, like this, where we are now is this is what their campaign builder, and we do it all in one place here, rather than have all your start and stop rules in one place. Infusionsoft just sort of gives you this canvas, and here's the way it works. So we're going to say that like an interaction, so basically any sort of interaction from your traffic is a goal, and in this case they're going to sign up for your newsletter. All right, so what happens when they sign up for a newsletter? All right, well, we want to send them an email, so that's done inside these little sequence boxes. So you just kind of click the arrow and drag it in and connect the sequence, and then you jump inside here, you go to your communication, and you say, okay, well, here's that first email, right? And so like, let's say this was the email for Cuba, and we would say this is Cuba part 1. All right, so they signed up for the thing, we jumped them in the sequence. Some other stuff's got to happen, but basically they get to the Cuba step, and then we want to stop the sequence. We want to just say, look, this isn't going to continue until they've clicked that link, and then when the link is clicked, we want it to then roll on. So the way it works here is you use one of these indicate interest goals, and then you connect like that. So there actually needs to be a link in here first. So let me just throw an email. This is another account for a different project that I have going on. So I'm just going to just make a link real quick. Okay. All right. So now we have a link in this email. You have to remember to sort of put emails. Needs a subject. Alrighty, and then you have to take the sequence out of draft mode. All right, and once you're out of draft mode, then you'll see it kind of goes like this. So you double click on the sequence goal, and then it'll show you this is the email. If you click this link, then we want to move forward. This is my unsubscribe link, so I'm not going to select that one. So we want to say if they click that link, then we'll let them move on to the next sequence, which would be like this. Right, and then you would put Cuba part 2 in here, and so on, and you just keep chaining the whole thing together. One destination, one email in your sequence after the next, and this is how you would chain it so that the email 1 gets sent, and then email 2 doesn't get sent unless they click the link. And so the web form setup, same thing. You just double click on it from here, and this is where you kind of create and change around your web form. And pick where it's going to go if you have a page of your site, and then the embed code, kind of similar to how Office Autopilot works, but again, there isn't really like a repository of all your web forms in one place. It's all sort of campaign by campaign, which is why they call it the campaign builder. One of the I think one I do think there's an advantage to this graphic layout and to not having it all in the same place, which is that you could also do things in sort of clever ways if you do it this way. Let's say that you know what, even if they don't click the link, let's just send it to them anyway. Oh, and the other thing is, if you want to like assign a tag when they click the link, you can do that in both applications. So, for example, you've created a link here, and so, all right, if they click this link, you want to apply the tag, so you select the link. Here's the destination it's going to go to, and you can just click that, and this is where you have all your tags stored, or you can just create a new tag from there. When you're in Office Autopilot and you're creating a message, so here's one of my messages. So here's our link. You'll see that you can't assign the tag from here. It is possible to assign the tag, but again, any of that kind of stuff is done in your rules down here. That would be an active response rule. If you want somebody to get tagged when they click a link, then you could do active response. You know, an advantage to doing it that way is you could create like a global tag that if anybody clicks a link in any email, then apply, you know, tag has clicked, you know, link. You might do that in order to start to help figure out who are your better prospects. The ones who are clicking links are probably your better prospects. So again, the advantage to having it all bundled in this little active response tab is you can kind of make some more global changes like that. The advantage to doing everything here is I think that the process of making the whole thing flows a little bit more the way you'd think of it. You start with where the customer is. They're going to sign up for your newsletter, then they go here, and then they have to click this link, and then they go to the next one. So the visual layout, I find, it might be for many people just easier to grasp how to set the whole thing up and make sure you don't mess it up. But as I said, some of the interesting, you know, things you can do is you'll see what I've done here is I've actually kind of connected both of them. So, and the reason I would do that is this: you could then throw like a delay timer in here, for example. And let's say, well, you know, let's wait 3 days. Okay, so now I'm going to explain what's going to happen. They're going to fill out the web form, land in this sequence, and then it's going to wait 3 days, and then in 3 days' time, it's just going to trigger the second email, unless they click the link. If they click the link, it's just going to jump them automatically to the second one. So it'll interrupt whatever this sequence is. As soon as they click the link, they're going to jump out of the sequence. And that's really important, because what if you put like a second email reminder, right? I do this a lot of times, which would be, you know, it's kind of like email nag, you could call it. And in your email nag, you might do something like, hey, did you get the email we sent 3 days ago? Because we really need you to click this link in order to move on. We want you to, you know, be engaged. So you could do that in your second email here. And what would happen is if someone's really on the ball and they get their email and they click right away, well, they jump out of the sequence because they've clicked and they go right to the next step. They'll never get that second email right here. So you can do stuff like that in both Office Autopilot and in Infusionsoft. Some people might find it's a little easier to do in Infusionsoft if just because you can kind of see it and drag the stuff around. Some people call it Confusionsoft because, you know, I think both of these applications, Infusionsoft and Office Autopilot, they're so powerful. There's so many possible things you can do that it can be quite overwhelming. But that's just a quick look at setting up like a click moved email sequence, meaning the email drips only when the customer clicks. That's how you would do one in Office Autopilot, how you do one in Infusionsoft, and just gives you a quick example of the different approach that each platform has used towards making these kinds of sequences. If you have any questions or you want to see anything in particular, or you have any questions, just put it in the comments, and I want to do more of these tutorials, and I look forward to sharing more about what I know about both of these pretty amazing services. Thanks.